The incessant work ethic. How about that toothless grin? Well, whatever your memory, relive it with us tonight. It's Bobby Clarke Night here at the Spectrum. And a special welcome to those of you joining us for the first time here on Prism. We hope you enjoy our presentation of this very special occasion. Well, what do Rick McLeish, Joe Watson, and Wayne Gretzky think of when they think of Bobby Clarke? Here are their thoughts, beginning with the great one.
I always felt that to play against a guy like that was always an honor, and whenever I was on the ice, I watched what he did, and when I was on the bench, I watched what he did, and I was fortunate I had an opportunity to play with him in Europe and Team Canada, and I always thought he was a tremendous asset to the game, and I wish him all the best in management.
The old saying was, as Clarke goes, the Flyers go, and I certainly think that holds true in the Flyers situation. You know, I can remember numerous times, and we'd be down, we wouldn't be doing well or something like that, and Clarke would come and just give a guy a pat in the rear end or say something to him, and the player got the message and go out there and do this and that.
You know, he was a leader on the ice, and he's a leader in the dressing room. You know, if I was dagging along like that, you know, he'd be yelling at me and stuff like that. But he's a leader, and he's in a position right now where he's, you know, I imagine he'll pull some strings here and there, and he's the kind of guy that's not going to, you know, if you're not playing, you're not going to be here. And I think he's shown that in the years because, you know, he goes out there and he plays all the time, and that might have been my aspect of it. You know, I might have looked things maybe the way I played looked too easy to me, you know, the way I skated and stuff like that. But Clarke's the kind of guy, you know, that he's digging all the time, and he proves things. He's on and off the ice, you know, and he keeps things together.
Like I say, if the Flyers are successful with him off the ice as they were with him on the ice, it's going to be a tremendous many years here, many happy years for the Flyers.
Join us for a special tribute to Bobby Clarke, including the retiring of his number 16 coming up in just a few moments right here on Prism. We're all juiced for it. They could probably fill the Spectrum for a Bobby Clarke tribute only, but we have added a bonus tonight. There is a regularly scheduled hockey game tonight. You'll be seeing it between the Flyers and the improved Hartford Whalers. Flyers coming off a 1-2 season against the Whalers last year. That included the Whalers' first ever win here at the Spectrum. That's Hartford's second leading scorer, Ron Francis, putting the puck in. Hartford, an improved club this year. They're 7-6-2 right now in that tough Adams division. Right here, leading scorer Mark Johnson makes the setup, but Bob Froese, the big save. Greg Millen does most of the goaltending chores for the Whalers. Right here, stopping Dave Poulin on a nice play. Flyers and Hartford coming up tonight, exclusively here on Prism. There are 3 other games tonight in the National Hockey League. We will update the scores for you through the night. Let's check that scoreboard for you now. The improved Devils are at Boston, Minnesota at the Island, and much later tonight, Edmonton will be at Calgary. Those 5 U.S. Olympic boxers making their pro debuts tonight, Philadelphians Terrell Biggs and Meldrick Taylor, along with Mark Breland, Evander Holyfield, and Pernell Whitaker, fighting tonight at Madison Square Garden. And for you fans of the natural grass, the city of New York has decided to keep the real stuff in Shea Stadium. They were thinking of AstroTurf in efforts to attract a pro football team to replace the Jets, but it's going to be the grass instead. Do not forget to stay with us here on Prism Sports between periods of tonight's Flyers Hartford Whalers game. In our first intermission, a conversation with the Hartford Whalers head man, the head coach, Jack Evans. And between periods 2 and 3, Prism's Ken Adelberger talking about an art close to Bobby Clarke's own heart, face-offs. Join us tonight. And that is it for this pregame edition of Prism Sports. I'm Mark Zumoff. Stay with us for Goosebumps, Bobby Clarke Night, followed by the Flyers and the Hartford Whalers, all coming up next, exclusively here on Prism.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you America's Mercury Excellence!
T-5.
I just thank God I live in a country where the best and the finest in a man can be brought out.
4.
It takes a special kind of man to volunteer for a suicide mission, especially when it's on TV.
3.
They all want to see Buck Rogers, and that's us.
2.
Oh no, I have to urinate.
No, we did not think of that.
Ignition.
This is the story of the men who had the right stuff.
The government spends just all kinds of time and money teaching you pilots how to be fearless. They don't spend a penny teaching you how to be the fearless wife of a test pilot.
Breathtaking, superb, powerful, an electrifying adventure. They flew faster, strived harder, and reached higher than any who had gone before.
So the Hartford Whalers, off to the best start in their brief 6-year NHL history, provide the opposition. The real excitement tonight comes before the game, when the Delaware Valley, in fact all hockey, salutes Bob Clarke upon his official retirement. With the longest sustained and brilliant professional sports career in Philadelphia annals, Clarke joins two other legends, Barry Ashby and Bernie Perrant, in permanent Flyer memory when his number is unfurled alongside theirs tonight, high atop the spectrum. All of that coming up next on Prism. Prism Sports presents Philadelphia Flyers Hockey. Tonight, live from the Spectrum, it's Bobby Clarke Night as the Flyers meet the Hartford Whalers.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this very special night, the night they retire, sweater number 16. I'm Bobby Taylor, along with Gene Hart and Eddie Van Imp, and gentlemen, so much has been written about that young man's career on the ice that I thought it'd be a little bit of a change of pace for us to talk about Clarkie as a person and what he's meant to us. And Gene, I think I should start with you because you've been here the longest.
You know, I remember early in his career, the first several years, he was always very tight-lipped about bringing up diabetes. And I always thought he was rather hypersensitive, and I thought, why should you be embarrassed about having a disease? But I think you two clued me in to the fact it wasn't so much that. It's just that when he had a bad game, or a series of bad games, he didn't want anybody to think it was because he was sick. It was just because he had bad games. And thus I understood when he had a request traveling to Minnesota for a game with the North Stars, if he would meet after a morning practice with a group of young preteen diabetic youngsters, outpatients at a hospital, and he was reluctant. He was talked into it, and he said he would do it after the skate that Saturday morning, but he also used the safety valve, and our PR director, Joe Cadillac, and said, Joe, get me out of there in 5 or 10 minutes. You know how he was so worried about his speaking ability. So after the practice, he went over there, and they were all preteens, and they were all agog, and there was about 40 of them. And he started talking, and after 5 or 6 minutes, Joe dutifully went over and said, Clarkie, the pregame meal. Clark says, no, I'd like to stay. Stayed an hour, and was wonderful, and I stayed with him all that time. And one of the youngsters, not really perhaps understanding why he was there, proudly at the end stood up and said, Mr. Clarke, you know, I'm a diabetic too, and that's always one of my wonderful memories.
Well, you know, Eddie, you and I have played with the young man, and through a number of years, you've played with a lot of great hockey players. How did he affect you?
Well, I'll tell you, Bobby, I think an awful lot of the fine things that were said about Bobby Clarke, the hockey player, can be basically passed on as to Bobby Clarke, the person. And I can recall when I was in Chicago, I played some great hockey players in the Hull and Nikita. When I joined the Flyers, there was a lot of great hockey players on the Flyers, and in the league at that time, there's a lot of great hockey players. And you look at them, what's the difference between a great hockey player and Bobby Clarke? I think that what really comes to my mind is that basically Clarkie hated to lose, and he loved to win. I don't think you could pay a person a finer compliment as far as the way he played hockey, the way he lives his life, and I think it's fantastic.
You know, I agree. I think there's something, though. When I think of Clarkie, I think more of him as a human being, because I see him more on the golf course and the backyard barbecues, and I know that I've never met a more generous human being in my life. Anytime my family ever needed something, he was always there, and I never even had to ask for it. He just knew. He had that sixth sense to know that if you were down or in times of trouble, he was there. He was always there to help, and he always will be. And I think, you know, the best thing I can describe Bobby Clarke is he's my friend. But also, I think Bobby Clarke, a lot of people don't understand that he was one of the greatest practical jokers, too, Eddie. There's a few things in that locker room that he used to do to us to drive us crazy.
Well, I can remember most of them we can't even tell here, but he is definitely a practical joker. I mean, he's done things from cut ties to, I guess, nail shoes, but I can recall that even when we had the old-timers game here, and we weren't even part of the Flyers anymore, when we went out in the ice, all of a sudden we got back in here, and all our undershorts, all our ties were all tied up in great big balls with black tape, and it was Clarkie, it was him that did it, we found out later.
Well, he's always been a great practical joker, and he's always had the respect of every one of us here and anybody here in Philadelphia. But there's been an awful lot of people around the league that respected him just as much as we did.
It's hard to limit it to one comment. I was at the drafting table at Detroit when we passed him. Biggest mistake we ever made. Probably the most intense competitor, and one word always comes to mind with Bobby Clarke: leadership. He's a leader of people, leader of men. He's shown it on the Flyers, at the Players Association. He's going to do it in management.
Well, I don't think there's ever been a team in the history of the National Hockey League that has ever had a better leader better competitor, game in, game out, than Bobby Clarke?
Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to, the name Bobby Clarke, you say everything. The guy had everything you want as a hockey player. You hated to play against him, but you'd love to have him in your team, and I think it's the biggest compliment I can give to a player. Anybody I hated to play against, I would love to have him on my side.
Well, I'm glad he's joining the general manager's ranks. It's always nice to see a young man come into our ranks, someone a contemporary, your same age that you can deal with, and he's had a great career as a player, and I'm just glad that a quality guy like that's joining our ranks.
All I can say is one of the greatest leaders I've ever seen in this game, and one of the perfect gentlemen. Off and off. I mean, as a couple of guys I knew in the league said about him, when there was only one thing wrong against Bobby Clarke is he had some night the wrong sweater on his back.
I'm sure that he's going to apply the hard work and class and style that he put many years to playing into the role as a general manager and getting Philadelphia back into the Stanley Cup situation.
Bob Clarke will be a success no matter what he tries in life, and he will be a sensational general manager.
Well, I think simply was an overachiever, and I think in athletics you love to see those type of players. He got everything possible out of his ability, and had just an outstanding career, and he carries that into the front office. I feel sorry for all the other clubs in the league. He'll do an outstanding job.
A guy that wanted to win, did win. Certainly, I guess in the future will continue to win because of the personality and the character he is.
The way he played the game was the greatest example of I don't think he had to say anything in the locker room. It was just the way he played. He played with more intensity, I think, than any player I've seen play the game.
People that are that character and work that hard don't fail too often.
Clarke was truly a person that made you work hard, bring the best out in you, in your ups and down moods, and just play for the good of the team, the good of the city.
All you had to do was watch him, and if you didn't give the same effort he gave, then you weren't doing your job.
I'd come here from college, and I was a rookie, and I was trying to make the hockey club, but Bob Clarke took me under his arm. And I don't think that most superstars really have to do something like that. And I look back at that time, and I say to myself, that's a very special time for me. He's been a very special friend to me.
He's one of the best friends I've got, and I love him, and so is my family.
First year Bobby was in the league, I was in an elevator in Vancouver. The Flyers were in town, and this young fella gets on the elevator with a suitcase, the glasses, didn't look anything like a hockey player. And I was with a friend who was a good hockey fan. We rode down in silence. We left, and I said, I think that was that kid Clarke, wasn't it? And he said, yeah, I think so. Well, that kid Clarke, standing there with that suitcase, the funny, Gene, I always remember that, turned out to be the greatest example of how hockey should be played and how a player should conduct himself on and off the ice that I think I have ever seen.
You mention the name Clarke, you think of words like intensity, dedication, loyalty, a winner. What more do you need?
You probably recognized all the hockey players. The last two gentlemen, Dick Irvin is a famous Hockey Night in Canada broadcaster, and Red Fisher could probably say in hockey circles in Canada is on the same level as a Red Smith. We'll be in conversation in our first intermission with Bobby Clarke, and so we can get his opinion firsthand on how he's regarded this whole affair tonight. And in the second intermission, we'll be in conversation with Jerry Melnick, a head scout of the Flyers now, and the scout that really, literally begged the Flyers to draft Bobby Clarke. All this and the start of the ceremonies coming up right after this.
Now, in a special limited offer.
Don't stand there, Corbin! Oh, you've never seen me handicap before!
The meaning of life can be yours, including why you were born.
And what are you doing this morning? It's a birth. Wonderful what you can do nowadays.
What do I do?
Nothing, dear. You're not qualified.
Why things don't always work out.
The mill's closed. We're destitute. I've got no option but to sell you all for scientific experiments.
Where diseases come from.
Hello, can we have your liver? What? You know, it's reddish brown. It's sort of, Yeah, I know what it is, but I'm using it.
What dreams mean.
Wouldn't you like to know
the meaning of life?
Is there heaven and hell? Do we reincarnate?
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Spectrum. On this very special evening, it is my pleasure to introduce
your host for the ceremonies, the voice of the Flyers, Gene Hart.
Thank you. And allow me to be privileged to welcome you to this night of nights. First, let me set the tone. No sadness tonight. We want this to be a joyous celebration, not of the end of a career, but the fact that we were privileged to have that career unfold in this city and in this arena. But I'm sure you have read that we have a small problem. Our guest of honor is worried about tonight. He's uneasy because of this individual tribute. So I've taken the liberty, and I'm going to make a suggestion to him now, through this open letter that I've written for all of us and me to him, to perhaps put him at ease. And it reads simply, Dear Bob, we know how edgy and uneasy you are about tonight's tribute. We understand how uncomfortable individual praise makes you and how you've tried to avoid it at all costs, because for you, it has always been the team, always the team. But Bob, for all of us tonight, please, we implore you, just this once, indulge yourself to the fullest, revel and bask in the glory of tonight's emotion, and let them envelop you like a warm fur coat in the coldest of Flin-Flon winters. And if you allow yourself this one moment, it's going to be indelibly stamped in your heart and keep a flame lit there that will glow brightly the rest of your days. This has to be an evening of nostalgia, and with nostalgia comes the memories of a brilliant 15-year career. But to really get to the heart of what we wish to do this evening, it is most proper that we go back to the very beginning.
That's enough. May we begin? All right, my good friends. All right, let me, please allow me to introduce, for your pleasure, everyone that's here. Bobby and his lovely wife, Sandy, and you've got the two daughters, Jody and Jackie, and you've got Wade and Lucas, the sons, and we have Sandy's mother, this is Jane McIntyre, and we have Bobby's parents, Yvonne and Cliff Clarke. And over to my left, we're so pleased to have, representing the National Hockey League and all of North America, is the president of the league, John Ziegler. And Joe Scott, Keith Allen, Ed and Jay Snyder. Okay. Now, Mr. Clarke, if you join me, we're going to have I'd like to first, that this organization was so pleased to be part of this, and representing Hartford, I'd like to bring out a gentleman who was on the 1980 U.S. gold medal winning team, the Whaler captain, Mark Johnson.
Thank you very much. Bobby, you've made a great impact on the game of hockey. Your leadership, your dedication to the game has not only influenced the teammates you've played with, the organization of the Flyers, the city of Philadelphia, but the entire hockey world. And on behalf of the Hartford Whalers, it gives me great pleasure to present you with a token of our appreciation. Congratulations. Thank you, Bobby.
Now I'd like to bring forward the chairman of the board emeritus of the Flyers, Joe Scott, and I'd also like to keep Bob a little bit to the corner, and Mrs. McIntyre and Mrs. Clarke, would you come forward first? Joe? Joe Scott is presenting first to Mrs. Jane McIntyre and then to Bobby's parents this beautiful wood and brass Seiko mantel clock. And again, that's to Yvonne and Cliff Clarke, and to Sandy's mom, Mrs. Jane McIntyre. Okay, now I want to bring the youngsters forward. Could we first have the young ladies? Jackie and Jody, would you come forward, please? Come on, Jackie and Jody. All right, Joe is giving to each of the girls a 14-karat gold Flyer logo necklace with the number 16 on a gold chain for a permanent memento. And now, we're going to ask his two handsome devil-may-care sons, Wade and Lucas, to come forward. And for them, each a 14-karat gold Flyers logo with the number 16 in a tie pin design for a permanent memento. This next young man has triply been blessed over the last year or so. The first, being a member of the Flyers, the second, to succeed Bobby Clarke as captain, and the third, to represent the team in their gift, Dave Poulin.
On behalf of the 84-85 Flyers, I'd like to present Bob with a sterling silver hockey stick. To congratulate him on 15 outstanding NHL seasons. Those of us that played with you only benefited from your drive and desire, and our new team members only stand to gain from your presence as the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers.
Now I'm going to introduce a gentleman who was the first Flyer coach, then their general manager, and now executive vice president and chairman of the executive committee. Would we welcome Keith Allen? Sandy, would you come forward? Keith is going to present to Bobby and Sandy the organization's gift. First to Sandy, a 14-karat gold and diamond ladies Piaget wristwatch with the engraving that reads, "With love and appreciation, November 15th, 1984, the Philadelphia Flyers." And to Bobby receives a 14-karat gold Rolex wristwatch, which is engraved, "To Bobby Clarke, number 16, our heart and soul for 15 years, the Philadelphia Flyers." Bob, we have a surprise for you and to all of you. We thought certainly there should be a permanent reminder of this gentleman's brilliance, and so a sculptor was commissioned to design a trophy. And it was decided that that trophy should represent the greatest goal in Flyer history in overtime at Boston Garden. Now, there are two of them. One will become the possession of Bob Clarke and Sandy, and the other will be in permanent residence here at the Spectrum, and it will bear the title, "The Bobby Clarke Trophy to the Flyers' Most Valuable Player." So Bob, if you would get back there. You move back there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, hold it. There it is. told that I should specifically remind you that this trophy is not only dedicated to Bobby, but to all of you as well. This next gentleman's energy and ferocious desire for success, very much similar to that of Bobby's, is the reason that we're all here today in the successful franchise that we've had. The other night at our dinner, he said, "I love Bobby Clarke as a son, and there are no truer words that have been spoken about one man to another." And with that, I'd like to present the chairman of the executive committee of the Flyers, Mr. Ed Schneider.
Good evening. I have watched almost all of the 1,144 games that Bobby Clarke has played for the Philadelphia Flyers. All 17,000 plus that are here, and the hundreds of thousands that are watching on television, are like me, fans of Bobby Clarke. And I'm speaking for all of us when I say that Bobby Clarke was the hardest working athlete we've ever seen. The Flyers are a team of character and tradition, and that is largely because of Bobby Clarke. He showed us how to win. He taught us the value of hard work. He was the ultimate team player. And as a leader, he was unparalleled. Bobby Clarke is more than a great player. He is a great human being. And that's a tribute to his parents, Yvonne and Cliff Clarke. Bobby will be surprised to learn that we are presenting his parents with a complete trip anywhere in the world as a thank you for giving us Bobby. We have here jersey number 16. It is a jersey no other player will ever wear again in Philadelphia. Now I would like to ask Wade Clarke, Bob Clarke's oldest son, to present this jersey to his dad. Put it on, Bob. Although number 16 will never again be seen on ice, it will forever be displayed at the Spectrum. I thought that this would be sad, but I'm really happy because Bob Clarke is our general manager and we're in great hands. And now, as the number 16 banners are unfurled, I ask you to join me in saying, thank you, Bob, we love you.
Thank you. Please. I'm totally overwhelmed by what's happened tonight, so please bear with me. To the Hartford Whalers, your organization, and Mr. Francis, Jack Evans, and the coaches and players of the Flyers, I have the total respect for every man who plays in this hockey league. I certainly am grateful for what you have given me tonight. And to all you players, the best of luck. Mr. Snyder, words cannot totally describe the feelings that I have for you, but your leadership, your kindness, and your toughness, your great desire and your friendship, I can never, ever think of having a better person for a friend than you. Thank you so much. Mr. Snyder and your family, Mr. Scott and your family, I will always cherish the kindness and thoughtfulness that you had for each and every one of us players and our families. This organization was great because of you people. Thank you. To my wife, 4 children, my mother-in-law, my mother and father, who I love dearly, your encouragement and your support and your love help me every step of the way. You're deserving as much as I am of this. Thank you. To Mr. Keith Allen, who was the architect of 17 great years here. Your wisdom and your guidance are a great standard for me to try and follow. I will lean heavily on you, as you know. Thank you so much. To all the media who were so kind and so thoughtful, to my family and myself, heaven knows I give you enough opportunities not to be. I thank you so very much. To all you fans, your encouragement and your support of myself and my teammates caused us to reach heights that none of us thought we would ever reach. I will cherish forever this evening, and if I had my choice, I'd love to do it over again. To all the players that I played with and worked with, and the coaches and the trainers, you made every day enjoyable for 15 years, and I have memories that I can never ever thank you enough for. Every day was like Christmas for me, and you were all part of it. Thank you so much. The Flyers, the fans, and Philadelphia are great, great memories for me, and I know they'll be a great part of the future. Thank you so very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't think of a better way to end this ceremony and bring on our hockey game than if we do a great rendition of our song. So, in those famous words of the past, would you all stand and join Kate Smith in God Bless America?
Boy, if you're going to retire, what a way to go, eh?
I'll tell you, Eddie, that is something. You know, it's funny how you anticipate what will happen at this and how the fans would react. We knew the fans would really react to Clarke, but